My name's Tom Croce. Now, my story is about my Italian family going on a cruise. Okay? Now, the first thing I'm going to do is to apologize because I plan on using the F word. You see, I'm from Boston. Now, if you know anybody from Boston, you understand exactly where I'm going with this. Okay? Now, when a bunch of Italians get together in my family, you can count on three things happening: eating, drinking, and arguing. It doesn't matter if you're at a funeral, a wedding, or just out playing cards. Okay? So, about 7 years ago, I called my mother and I said, "Hey, Mom, what do you want to do for your 50th wedding anniversary?" She says, "I want to go on a cruise." I said, "Okay. I'll talk to the family. We'll pitch in, send you and Dad on a cruise." She goes, "No, I want to go with the family." I said, "Mom, think about that. We can't even go to a funeral without arguing with each other. You want to go on a cruise with a bunch of people?" "I don't think so." She said, "Yes." She said, "We'll have a wicked good time." So I said, "What does Dad think about this?" "Well, what's he have to do with it?" I said, "You're right." So we go on a cruise. First day on the cruise, lunchtime, we're up at the sandwich shop. My mother orders. The guy behind the counter says, "Can I help you?" And she says, "I want a large Italian grinder, oil and vinegar, salt and pepper. I want a tonic. And, hon, what do you want?" "And I want a regular coffee. And my son wants a frap." Now, the guy behind the counter has no idea what she's talking about. Okay? So he gets a little smart with her. Now, my mother doesn't use the F word, but she has this look. And what she does is she'll one hand towards the person she's talking to, and the other about the person she's talking about. And this means, what the F up was with this guy? You know, he can't speak English. He doesn't understand what I'm trying to say. So I have to explain to the guy, a grinder's a sub in Boston. A frap is just a milkshake. A regular coffee, you go into a Dunkin' Donuts in Boston and say, "Give me a regular coffee, 1 cream, 1 sugar." And a tonic is just a soda, Coke, whatever, off the shelf. So we get through that. Well, that night, my dad and I go play blackjack. And we're at the blackjack table, and my dad's doing pretty good. He's up maybe $100. And a couple hours into it, a gentleman I see standing behind my dad. Now, I find out later his name is Charles. Charles is Italian. He's there on his 50th wedding anniversary. He's in his 70s. Okay? For some reason, Charles decides he's going to give my dad advice on playing blackjack. That's the wrong thing to do. Now, it's okay until Charles puts his hands on my dad. My dad turns around, and some of my friends know my dad. He says, "Let me give you some fucking advice. You and I are going to have a problem if you don't get your hands off me." He says, "We can settle it here, or we can settle it outside. I don't care. Get the F away from me." Right? Well, for some reason, Charles doesn't back down, and I'm not used to that. Right? Well, the guy next to my dad says, "Oh, I think my wife's calling, I gotta go." So Charles sits down. Well, Charles has no idea how to play blackjack. He's hitting on 20, he's holding on 12. I mean, he's all over the place. He's getting up to go get a drink, which leaves 3 people at the table. Come back 20 minutes later, there's 4 people at the table. You know, there's kind of an etiquette about playing blackjack, you know, when to hit, when to fold, or, you know. So, finally, Charles leaves. My dad and I are walking back to the room. My dad says, "You know what? I'm going to kick his ass." I said, "Dad, listen, you're not in your 60s anymore, Dad. You can't go around kicking people's asses, especially people your own age." I said, "If we get thrown out of that casino," I said, "well, the only gambling we're going to be doing is playing bingo with the old ladies." So, go back to the room. I said to my mother, "Don't let him out of this room unless the ship is sinking." So, next morning, the whole family, we meet at the dining hall. Now, if you've ever been on a cruise, the tables are pretty close together. Everybody can hear everybody's conversation. My dad is talking about this asshole named Charles. And, you know, he's just going on and on. Now, I got a cousin on the ship. My cousin has seen way too many Italian movies. He says, now jokingly, he says, hey, Uncle Tommy, you want me to take care of him for you? My dad says, you know what, you're an asshole. No, this is in front of him. He said, get the F away from me. Now, he looks at my uncle and says, where'd you get this kid? Right? He says, I'll take care of Charles. I don't need nobody fighting my battles. Now, all I can think of is the people around us are thinking, we may have possibly put a hit on a 70-year-old man. If this guy dies on this cruise from a heart attack, we're all going to jail. Okay? So the second night, we go back to the casino, and I see Charles to the left. So I steer my dad to the right. He's still losing money. My dad can't get over Charles. He's so upset. He just can't get over Charles. He's not concentrating. He's losing. Well, Charles comes over to the table. He says, can I buy you a drink? My dad says, yeah. So he buys us a drink. Charles says, can I join you? My dad says, no. He says, as a matter of fact, he said, the kids are playing Go Fish in the other room. He says, why don't you go play with somebody of your own intelligence, right? Well, Charles decides to sit down anyways. Well, guess what? Charles did know how to play blackjack. Actually, he does pretty good. Now all of a sudden, he's winning, my dad's winning, things are going good. Nobody's hurt, nobody's getting hurt. That's good in my family. So that night, we're walking back to the room, and my dad says, you know, he's an asshole, but I still like him. I said, okay. So the next morning, meet with the family again, you know, we're drinking Bloody Marys, having breakfast, and my dad says, you know, Charles is an all right guy. Third night, back to the casino. I see Charles. My dad said, let's go sit with Charles. I said, okay, so we go sit with Charles. We have a fantastic time. Charles's wife comes in, my mother comes in, my wife comes in. Actually, I got a couple friends here who are on the same cruise. They come in, we all meet Charles, meet the family. Great time. Last night on the cruise, everybody decides we're going to go meet at the bar. They're going to buy us drinks because they actually made out pretty good. So we're just having a great time last night on the cruise. The end of the night, you got a bunch of Italians hugging each other, calling each other Goomba. Nobody dares say anything, right? So we're never going to see Charles again the rest of our lives. Now the next day we were told we have to go to a certain deck at a certain time to get off the ship. Well, who's there? Charles and his family. So we start talking. And I hear Charles's wife tell my mother, well, you know, if you're ever in Philly, give us a call. Here's our name and address. So now my mother says, is that your name? That's not your name. And I'm thinking, oh, great. Now I hear these two ladies arguing. I said, two days ago, I got two 70-year-old men arguing back and forth. Now I got two 70-year-old women arguing back and forth. What's going on? My mother said, well, that's not your name. That's our name. What are you talking about? Croce. No, that's my last name. Well, come to find out, my dad and Charles started talking. They were second cousins. So, like I said, you get a bunch of Italians together. What do? Eat, drink, and argue.